You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report, episode 187.5. Grant Shouse previews Wednesday's IU-Penn State men's basketball game.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengel.
I am at Northwestern High School here with Grant Shouse, and we are walking out of the gym after a...
Has anybody ever done this on a walk? I feel like I'm doing 94 feet with Jay Billis.
Yeah, we have a podcast called Podcasting While Golfing. So we, so it's happened. So we're at Northwestern High School talking about IU basketball. Grant, I'm going to call him my IU guy.
Sure.
Big win on Sunday over Purdue. Any win over Purdue is a big one, but especially in this situation, Grant, where they really needed a win, a quality win for their NCAA tournament resume.
Yeah.
Huge win over Purdue, and now you turn to a Penn State game that when you're talking about resume, this is one that could kill it. So This is one that you got to win, right?
Yeah, you don't want to lose at home. And they beaten Penn State once, beat them on a neutral floor at the Palestra. That was a huge win at the time because, Penn State was a team that had just kind of recently at that time knocked off Purdue, and just moment, and that was a kind of a momentum grabber for Indiana. And then it seems like always every year they hit that lull in January where they lose 3, 4, 5 in a row, and this one stretched maybe a little longer than it has in years past. But beating Michigan State was huge, and then of course when you can beat the rival that always beats up on you, that's just, it's a huge win to carry their momentum. And this is an Indiana team that I'm telling you has a really good chance to, I don't know about win out, but I think they can win 3 out of their next 4 games. The Oregon game could be tough, but getting Penn State tomorrow, you get Washington and then Ohio State, who's kind of struggling lately.
But none of these are easy wins, so you've got...
No, of course not. And any win in the league is never an easy win. And to win in the league, I've always said, it does not matter if they're the best team, they're the worst team. You can win a conference game. Always huge for the momentum of the program.
You said you've used the word momentum a couple of times. The issue I have found with IU this year has been they have momentum and then they find that game that just completely rocks their momentum and completely slows it down. They've got to avoid that. And this is one of those games that feels like could be one of those games.
Tomorrow night is what we call a trap game for Indiana. We're like they're 16 and 11. They're like right there. They're so bubbly right now. And what I mean by bubbly is that they are literally like 1, 2, 3 wins away from going to the NCAA tournament. And if the season ended today, I think they would be one of the last 2 teams looking in. So to win tomorrow at home in what we call a trap game, it's a hangover game after beating Purdue, is just so crucial for them to get on the right side of the bubble. But right now, in my opinion, not a lot of people, but in my opinion, they're on the outside looking in. And if the season ended today, I think they're going to the NIT. So tomorrow would be another resume booster. This is an Indiana team that they're 12-0 in quad two or less games. They've won 12 games that are not quad 1 wins. So for them to go and get for them to try and go get a win tomorrow it's huge for the program. And you have to have this win to keep your hopes alive for the tournament.
What did you see Sunday that you hoped carries into this game? Obviously, the dominance inside, but that's not going to be able to be something that you're going to be able to carry on consistently. That's going to be kind of a matchup thing when you'll be able to dominate eight inside. What do you want to see on Wednesday from this team?
The defense, no question about it. Like the defense, they played probably their best defensive half in that second half on Sunday that I've seen them play. Like not this year, but like in years past. Like Miles Rice, who at one point in the second half, after he airballed a 3, I said to myself, he may be one of the worst to ever put on the jersey. And then it was like he heard me, like something, like I don't know something what, like if that woke him up telepathically or what, because they ended up coming out and they end up dominating defensively because of his defensive effort. And to play the guys like Galloway, Leal, Goody, and what do those guys have in common? They're from Indiana. They hate Purdue. That's why they're at Indiana. They hate Purdue.
They bleed crimson and cream.
Exactly.
It's hard to bleed crimson and cream when you're not from Indiana.
Exactly. And that's why I think the program has kind of struggled, because they haven't gotten a lot of these. They haven't gotten as passionate Indiana guys as maybe in years past. Like, we look at guys like Trace Jackson Davis, Rob Finney, those kind of guys that have had legacy games against Purdue. And then you look at Purdue's success, like guys Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, Trey Kaufman-Renn. Like, pick one. Pick anyone that's from Indiana. They hate Indiana. That's why they're at Purdue.
As much as you hate Purdue, you would love to see IU kind of model Purdue
no question.
in that aspect.
No question. And I think Purdue has kind of modeled Indiana a little bit. I'm talking the Indiana from the Bob Knight era. And I wouldn't say every way, but in certain ways.
A lot of ways.
In terms of like getting the Indiana caliber kid, getting a hard-nosed defensive player.
Finding good fits rather than just going after all the All-Americans.
Yeah. And that I think is the one thing that has absolutely screwed the Mike Woodson era, is that, Mackenzie Mbako looks great because he's a McDonald's All-American. Umar Ballo is a McDonald's All-American. These guys are high-level high school players, great AAU players, but just they don't care. Like they don't care about putting the Indiana on their chest. Like, they don't care about wanting to beat Purdue. That's why guys like Galloway, as much. I mean, they do because they're at Indiana, but they've not grown up knowing the rivalry.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's different. Like, we're from Indiana.
It's impossible to know it unless you live it.
Right. And like, that's how, I mean, look at any other rivalry, like Duke and North Carolina, even on the football side, seeing things with Ohio State and Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they hate each other. They absolutely hate each other. Same with Auburn and Alabama. So to get guys that care about winning games at Indiana and beating the rivals like Purdue, Michigan State, Illinois, those kind of teams that have always been Big Ten rivals with Indiana, that is something that can turn your program around, in my opinion.
On Monday, Grant, you and I are going to do our first Indiana Hoosiers weekly podcast. We're going to try to go about a half hour. If we want to go longer, we'll go even longer. And the main question of that topic that day is going to be coaching. So I don't want to talk about it too much.
That's fine.
But what are you thinking as the coaching search is clearly underway?
I mean, it's something.
And how huge is this?
It's so crucial, because just like the last 3 or 4 guys you've hired at Indiana, like, it's so crucial in turning the program back around. And I don't want to get too deep into it, but in my opinion, the firing of Bob Knight is not what screwed Indiana. It was keeping Mike Davis. But we can talk about that another time. But getting these guys, like, I'm just not so sure, like the Ben McCollums, like at Drake, who, they're having a great – I'm just not sure guys like that are really the answer. Like, I think
the issue is that they might be, but they also might not be, and you cannot afford to get set back here.
I think that people are thinking of the football team's success this year, and they're thinking, okay, we need to go get a basketball version of Kurt Signetti, someone who's had success and built that up. And I think the one guy people think of is Ben McCollum there at Drake, and he's a great coach. Don't get me wrong. We'd love to have him, but I would really be intrigued with hiring TJ Otzelberger at Iowa State. Love what they do. And it kills me as an Indiana fan to think about the times with Kelvin Sampson and having what happened with him and the program getting on probation and setting them back a little bit. It kills you, because think about it, he'd probably still be at Indiana. If Indiana would have the success that Houston's had over the last few years with Sampson, he probably could have stayed there a long time and made them a national championship contender again. So you got to get someone like a TJ Otzelberger. I think the best comparison to look at it is like Kentucky's coaching search last year. Like, they had to settle on Mark Pope, who was like their 4th or 5th option. Like, Scott Drew turned the job down. Bruce Pearl didn't want to come. Nate Oates didn't want to come. So I would like to see. So those guys aren't going to come. Like, Scott Drew's not coming. Pick any big. Bruce Pearl, he's not coming. They're not leaving. It's just what I think. But
I think you got to back that truck up, man. You got to back that money truck up. You've got.
I do too.
You got to go after a guy can run a successful program. Not always. There are times to hire a risk, a guy to come in who you think is the next big thing. But this is not one of those occasions. They've got to get a guy they know can run a big-time program.
And I think the two clear answers are Otzelberger at Iowa State and Chris Beard down at Ole Miss.
Chris Beard would be
Chris
fantastic.
Beard would be great. He was an assistant
Tony
with Coach
Bennett
Knight.
would be fantastic.
Tony
Jay
Bennett-
Wright would be amazing.
I just don't think you're going to be able to get those guys come out of retirement.
Back
is the
that
problem.
money truck up.
Let's hope.
Let's
Let's
hope.
hope.
And we'll
Great
talk
talk
more
with you
about that
tonight.
on Monday. It was good to see you. Always good to see
Of
some high
course.
school basketball. And
Yep.
I love your passion for high school basketball and the Hoosiers. And we love having you aboard, Grant. Thanks so much to Grant Shouse for joining the Central Indiana Sports Report. Later Wednesday, maybe Thursday, I am going to release an introduction podcast so everybody knows what's going on. Grant is going to join the Central Indiana Sports Report as our IU guy. He's going to be talking IU basketball, IU football, IU women's basketball, a little baseball, a little softball, and anything else that goes on that's important with IU sports. Looking forward to starting a relationship with Grant and adding to the Central Indiana Sports Report. And thank you for listening. Please tune in to all of our IU segments. If you like Grant's insider knowledge, and it's just going to grow more and more as he jumps into the IU waters as a reporter. Also, a reminder, every day at 1 o'clock, we release the Daily Report, which is an update everything across Central Indiana, high school sports in Blackford, Delaware, Grant, Howard, Madison, Tipton, and northern Hamilton counties. That's Sheridan and Hamilton Heights. And the college programs in those counties as well, which of course is Ball State, Taylor, Indiana Wesleyan, Anderson, and IU Kokomo. Plus IU, Purdue, the Pacers, Colts, and IndyCar racing, and anything else of local or national interest. Whatever sports fans in Central Indiana are talking about, that's what we're going to be talking about. If you are interested in seeing us grow and expand, the best way that you can do that is by telling your friends and family about the Central Indiana Sports Report. We always appreciate it. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. And I love Susie.